Excuse me, did you get lost? The catering staff entrance is around back. This charity gala is for donors only. The words cut through the elegant hum of champagne glasses and string quartets like a blade. Dorothy Washington, 68 and draped in navy silk that cost more than most people's monthly rent, stood frozen beside the crystal fountain at the Four Seasons Grand Ballroom. Harrison Blackwood, tech billionaire worth $4.2 billion according to Forbes, blocked her path with the casual arrogance of someone who'd never been told no. His wife Catherine smirked behind her phone, discreetly filming. Their teenage daughter Madison rolled her eyes dramatically while their son Preston shifted uncomfortably in his $1,000 tuxedo. 200 of the city's elite turned to stare. Society photographer James Brooks lowered his camera. The Metropolitan Children's Hospital annual charity gala had just found its evening's entertainment. Dorothy's hospital board member pin caught the chandelier light. Her $50,000 donor invitation peeked from her beaded clutch, but Harrison saw only what he expected to see. Have you ever watched someone's quiet dignity in the face of public humiliation and wondered what kind of power they might be hiding behind their calm smile? 8:47 p.m. Live auction begins in 13 minutes. Harrison's voice boomed across the marble floor designed to carry. Security! This woman clearly doesn't belong here. Look around. Does she fit in with our crowd? Dorothy maintained her composure as conversations halted. Crystal champagne flutes paused mid-sip. The Steinway piano continued its gentle melody, oblivious to the social earthquake unfolding beneath the crystal chandeliers. Someone's grandmother probably followed the catering trucks, Harrison continued, his chest puffing with righteous authority. His Armani tuxedo cost more than most people's cars, and he wore that knowledge like armor. The Patek Philippe watch on his wrist caught the light, a $40,000 reminder of his status. Catherine whispered theatrically to nearby socialites, her diamond bracelet catching light as she gestured dismissively. Darling, we simply cannot have random people mixing with actual donors. What if the press sees? Our reputation depends on maintaining standards. The wives of other tech moguls nodded in agreement, their Botoxed faces arranged in expressions of manufactured concern. Mrs. Pemberton from the country club leaned closer. Mrs. Brooks from the yacht club raised her eyebrows knowingly. The social machinery of exclusion began grinding into motion. Mr. Blackwood, Dorothy said quietly, I believe there's been a misunderstanding. I'm Dorothy Washington, hospital board member. Harrison laughed, a sharp sound that cut through the classical music. Board member? Ma'am, I know every board member personally. We golf together at Riverside Country Club every Thursday. Madison Blackwood, 17 and armed with 100,000 Instagram followers, discreetly angled her phone. Her manicured fingers, adorned with rings worth more than college tuition, typed rapidly. Random lady crashing our charity thing, # charity drama, # elite, problems, # galagate, / can't afford to be here. The post went live instantly. Comments flooded in within seconds. The digital audience split between outrage and entertainment. Iconic mom energy, TBH. Why is she filming this poor woman? That lady looks classier than all of them combined. This is giving Major Karen vibes from the family. Someone check if she actually belongs there before judging. Rich people problems are wild. Plot twist, she's actually richer than them. But Harrison saw none of this digital commentary. His focus remained laser-sharp on what he perceived as a threat to his carefully curated social ecosystem. 20 years of building his tech empire had taught him to eliminate problems quickly and decisively. Hotel security supervisor Robert Kim approached reluctantly, his polished shoes clicking against marble. His earpiece crackled with confused chatter from his team stationed throughout the ballroom. The Blackwood family donated $2 million annually to various hospital programs. Their corporate Christmas party alone brought in $50,000 in venue fees. Dorothy Washington was unknown to him. Ma'am, Kim said carefully, perhaps we could step aside and verify your invitation. Just standard procedure for everyone's comfort. Event coordinator Angela Price materialized like smoke, her clipboard clutched against her chest. Sweat beaded her forehead despite the ballroom's perfect 72-degree climate control. 20 years organizing elite fundraisers had taught her to read social hierarchies instantly. Money talked. Power whispered. Both demanded immediate attention. Mrs. Angela paused, waiting for identification while checking her tablet discreetly. Washington, Dorothy supplied gracefully, her voice carrying the quiet authority of someone accustomed to boardrooms and difficult decisions. Angela's tablet showed no immediate recognition in the VIP database. The Blackwood name, however, glowed with premium markers, Table 1 seating, special dietary requirements, security notes about their high-profile status, and reminders about their media-shy preferences. Catherine moved closer to her society friends, voice pitched for maximum gossip distribution. Can you believe the audacity? Crashing our event like this? Security should have caught this at the door. Her phone remained strategically positioned, capturing Dorothy's every expression for her private group chat titled Elite Circle Updates. The digital whispers spread faster than champagne bubbles. Screenshots appeared in exclusive social media groups. Text messages pinged across the city's upper echelons. The story was already mutating, growing more dramatic with each retelling. Dr. Maria Santos, the hospital's CEO, noticed the commotion from across the room. She began navigating through clusters of donors, her practiced smile wavering slightly. The evening's success depended on smooth operations and happy contributors. Conflicts between major donors could derail months of careful planning and jeopardize future fundraising efforts. Preston Blackwood, 19 and Columbia-bound, watched his family's performance with growing unease. His ethics professor's recent lecture on unconscious bias echoed uncomfortably in his mind. But family loyalty ran deeper than academic theory. He remained silent, complicit through inaction, his moral education colliding with social pressure. Dorothy adjusted her hospital board pin, a small gesture that went unnoticed by everyone except photographer James Brooks. His trained eye caught the engraving. Founding Benefactor, Washington Family Foundation. Something clicked in his memory, but the moment passed too quickly to process fully. Society reporter Michelle Torres from Metropolitan Life magazine materialized beside Brooks, sensing story potential. Her recorder remained hidden in her purse, but her ears stayed sharp. This kind of real-life drama sold more magazines than posed charity photos ever could. The countdown clock ticked mercilessly. 11 minutes until the live auction began. 11 minutes until Dr. Santos would recognize major donors from the podium. 11 minutes until someone might realize they were making a catastrophic mistake. Dorothy's phone buzzed with a text message. Mom, finishing board meeting. See you at the gala soon. Jay. She smiled slightly, typing back with elegant fingers. Looking forward to it, sweetheart. Interesting evening so far. 8:52 p.m. Live auction begins in 8 minutes. The confrontation expanded like ripples across a still pond. More guests abandoned their conversations, drawn by the magnetic pull of social drama. Smartphones emerged from designer clutches and tuxedo pockets. The Four Seasons ballroom transformed into an amphitheater of judgment. Harrison's confidence swelled with each new witness. I'm calling the hospital board chairman personally. This is embarrassing for everyone involved. He produced his phone with theatrical flair, scrolling through contacts labeled with titles like Senator Morrison and Judge Patterson. His finger paused over Chairman Fitzgerald, Hospital Board. The power to end this charade lay one phone call away. Charles will clear this up immediately. We golf together every weekend at Riverside. Catherine approached a cluster of society matrons, her voice dripping with practiced concern. Ladies, can you imagine if this gets into the papers? Security breach at Children's Hospital Gala. We have a responsibility to protect the event's integrity. Mrs. Vanderbilt nodded gravely, her pearls clicking against her champagne glass. Absolutely shocking. In my day, people knew their place. Mrs. Roosevelt adjusted her emerald necklace. "Should we move to another area? This is becoming quite uncomfortable." The social hierarchy's enforcers were mobilizing, their collective disapproval forming an invisible wall around Dorothy. Whispered conversations spread through the ballroom like wildfire. Who is she? How did she get past security? The Blackwoods are handling it perfectly. Madison's TikTok had exploded beyond her usual audience. Comments poured in from verified accounts, influencers and random users whose algorithms had caught the controversy. The view count climbed, 75K, 85K, 95K, breaking past 100K views in real time. OMG, is this really happening at a charity event? Someone needs to check this lady's credentials ASAP. The second-hand embarrassment is real right now. Why are rich people always like this, though? This feels racist, but make it classy somehow. Plot twist incoming, I can feel it. That woman has more class than the whole family. But Madison remained oblivious to the growing sentiment against her family. She was too intoxicated by her moment of viral fame to read the room, either digital or physical. Her followers were multiplying by the minute, drawn by the raw authenticity of unscripted drama. Dorothy stood near the auction display, studying the lot descriptions with genuine interest. A week-long stay at a Napa Valley vineyard donated by tech mogul Patricia Brooks. Private jet access to the Hamptons courtesy of investment banker Robert Kim. Original artwork from emerging African-American artists, including pieces from the renowned Washington Gallery downtown. Her calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the chaos surrounding her. While others gestured wildly and voices rose, she maintained the stillness of someone accustomed to weathering storms. Event coordinator Angela Price felt her career flashing before her eyes. 20 years of flawless execution threatened by one social miscalculation. Her tablet buzzed relentlessly with messages from her assistant. "Boss, local news wants a statement about the incident. Hospital PR asking for immediate debrief and security requesting instructions." Angela's hands trembled slightly as she typed responses. The Metropolitan Children's Hospital Gala was the social event of the season. A misstep here could end her reputation in elite event planning circles forever. Security Supervisor Robert Kim received conflicting instructions through his earpiece. Hotel management wanted minimal disruption to avoid negative publicity. The Blackwood family demanded immediate action to remove the intruder. His officers positioned themselves strategically, but their body language suggested confusion rather than authority. "Should we escort her out?" Officer Martinez whispered into his radio. "Wait for clearer direction," Kim responded, sweat beading despite the perfect climate control. Dr. Maria Santos finally reached the perimeter of the gathering crowd. Her medical training kicked in. Assess, diagnose, treat. The situation required delicate surgery, not aggressive intervention. She recognized the signs of escalating conflict from years managing hospital politics and donor relationships. "Is everything all right here?" she asked, her voice carrying the natural authority of someone who made life-and-death decisions daily. Harrison pivoted toward her like a heat-seeking missile. "Dr. Santos, perfect timing. This woman claims to be on your hospital board, but clearly there's been some mistake. I know every board member personally. We're practically family." Dr. Santos extended her hand toward Dorothy, her medical instincts telling her to gather information before making judgments. "I don't believe we've met. I'm Maria Santos, CEO. "Dorothy Washington," came the reply, accompanied by a firm handshake and direct eye contact. "Pleasure to meet you, Dr. Santos. I've heard wonderful things about your leadership, particularly the new pediatric wing expansion." Something flickered in Dr. Santos's expression. A moment of recognition, perhaps, or professional instinct sensing deeper currents beneath the surface drama. The mention of the pediatric wing expansion was oddly specific for a random party crasher. Preston Blackwood moved closer to his family, torn between loyalty and growing discomfort. His Columbia orientation materials included extensive diversity training modules. The irony wasn't lost on him that his family was creating exactly the kind of scenario those programs warned against. He thought about his African-American roommate Marcus, who'd shared stories about microaggressions at elite events. Preston had listened with academic interest then. Now he was witnessing, and participating in, the real thing. Society photographer James Brooks continued capturing images, but his approach had shifted. Instead of glamour shots, he documented the sociology of exclusion. His camera found Dorothy's dignity, Harrison's arrogance, and the uncomfortable expressions of witnesses who sensed something was wrong but lacked the courage to intervene. Chen had covered dozens of charity galas. This felt different. His journalistic instincts told him a bigger story was unfolding than simple social drama. 8:54 p.m. Live auction begins in 6 minutes. The countdown pressure intensified everyone's behavior. Angela checked her watch obsessively, mental calculations racing. Dr. Santos needed to return to the podium soon for donor recognition. The evening's schedule demanded resolution. Perhaps, Dr. Santos suggested diplomatically, we could verify credentials quickly and move forward with our program. I'm sure this is just a simple misunderstanding. Dorothy reached into her beaded clutch, producing her hospital board member identification card. The photo matched perfectly. The expiration date showed current status through December 2025. The security features appeared completely legitimate, but Harrison wasn't finished. Anyone can fake an ID these days. I insist we contact the board chairman directly. His fingers moved across his phone screen with aggressive purpose, thumb hovering over Chairman Fitzgerald's contact. Catherine filmed the ID verification process, whispering commentary for her social media audience. This is getting more interesting by the minute. She actually has some kind of official-looking card. But we all know how easy these things are to fake nowadays. The crowd pressed closer, forming concentric circles around the confrontation. Conversations at nearby tables ceased entirely. Even the waitstaff paused their service, drawn by the unfolding drama. The string quartet played on, their classical melodies providing surreal soundtrack to the modern theater. Society reporter Michelle Torres from Metropolitan Life magazine positioned herself strategically, her trained eye cataloging every detail. This was the kind of authentic drama that couldn't be staged, the raw collision of class, race, and power that defined elite social dynamics. Dorothy checked her elegant Cartier watch, a 25th anniversary gift from her late husband, Robert. The gesture was subtle, but something about her composure seemed to shift. Not anxiety, but preparation, like a conductor raising her baton before the symphony's climactic movement. Her phone vibrated with another message. She glanced at the screen, her expression softening with maternal warmth, and typed a brief response. The exchange took less than 30 seconds, but Harrison noticed every movement. Now she's probably calling reinforcements, he muttered to Catherine loud enough for others to hear. This is exactly why we need better screening procedures. One security lapse and our entire event becomes compromised. 8:55 p.m. Live auction begins in 5 minutes. Angela's tablet chimed with an urgent message from hospital administration. Major donor recognition ceremony must begin on schedule. Board members arriving. Resolve situation immediately. Dr. Santos felt the pressure mounting. As CEO, she navigated delicate situations daily, but this felt particularly volatile. The Blackwood family represented significant ongoing support. Yet something about Dorothy Washington's calm confidence suggested there was more to this story. The pressure was building toward an inevitable collision. Social forces, corporate interests, and personal pride created a perfect storm of escalating tension. 200 of the city's most powerful people watched, their phones recording, their judgments forming, their assumptions about to be shattered. Dorothy's serene expression remained unchanged, but those watching closely might have noticed a subtle shift in her posture. Like a master chess player who had been thinking several moves ahead while her opponents focused on immediate tactics. The next few minutes would determine whether the evening proceeded as planned or exploded into something far more consequential than anyone in that glittering ballroom could possibly imagine. 8:57 p.m. Live auction begins in 3 minutes. Dorothy's phone buzzed again. She glanced at the screen, her maternal smile returning as she read the message. With deliberate calm, she lifted the device to her ear. "Hello, Jamal?" Her voice carried across the now silent ballroom. "Yes, sweetheart. It's Mom." Harrison's face underwent a subtle transformation. Color drained from his cheeks as recognition flickered in his eyes. The name Jamal hung in the air like a struck bell, reverberating through his consciousness. His tech empire had built itself on pattern recognition and data analysis. This pattern was forming into a nightmare scenario. "I'm at the hospital gala with the Blackwood family," Dorothy continued, her tone remaining conversational. "They're very passionate about event security." Catherine continued filming, oblivious to the seismic shift occurring around her. Her diamond-encrusted fingers held steady as she captured what she believed was her family's social triumph. Madison kept her TikTok running, unaware that she was documenting her family's impending destruction. Preston shifted uncomfortably, his Ivy League education finally providing context for the catastrophe unfolding. "The Blackwoods have concerns about our family's appropriateness for high society charity events," Dorothy said, each word precisely enunciated with the surgical precision of someone accustomed to boardroom negotiations. Harrison's phone slipped from nerveless fingers, clattering against the marble floor. The sound echoed through the ballroom like a gunshot. His mouth opened and closed wordlessly as his brain processed the impossible reality unfolding before him. 30 years of building corporate relationships, and he'd just destroyed the most important one in under 10 minutes. From the phone's speaker, faint but audible to those nearby, came a familiar voice. "Mom, are they aware of our hospital partnership?" Santos stepped closer, her medical training forgotten as corporate instincts kicked in. She recognized that voice. The same voice that had addressed the hospital board just 2 weeks ago about the new medical complex construction timeline. The same voice that had presented the diversity and inclusion requirements for all contractor relationships. "Jamal Washington," she whispered, the pieces clicking together in her mind like a completed jigsaw puzzle. The crowd pressed closer, smartphones capturing every moment of the revelation. Society photographer James Brooks's camera clicked rapidly, documenting the exact moment when social assumptions collided with corporate reality. His journalistic instincts screamed that this was the story of the decade, not just social drama, but the intersection of race, power, and economic justice playing out in real time. Harrison found his voice, though it emerged as barely more than a croak. You're Jamal Washington's mother." "I am," Dorothy replied with quiet dignity that seemed to expand to fill the enormous ballroom. "He's finishing a board meeting downtown. Something about finalizing contracts for the new children's wing construction. The $900 million construction project, the largest infrastructure development in the hospital's history. The project would employ 2,000 workers over 5 years and establish the medical center as the premier pediatric facility on the East Coast. The project that Harrison's company desperately needed to maintain its position in the smart building systems market. Harrison's business mind, trained by decades of high-stakes negotiations and crisis management, began calculating the implications at light speed. Washington Enterprises held the primary construction contract. Blackwood Tech provided the smart building systems integration, a $47 million subcontract representing 23% of his company's annual revenue. More importantly, it was the showcase project that would determine their credibility for future hospital and university contracts worth hundreds of millions more. "Oh, and Jamal?" Dorothy said into the phone, her voice carrying clearly across the stunned ballroom. "I think we should discuss our corporate social responsibility standards for all future partnerships." The words landed like surgical strikes. Corporate social responsibility, partnership standards. The implications were crystal clear to anyone who understood how modern business operated in an era of social media accountability and stakeholder activism. Catherine's hand trembled as she held her phone. The video she'd been recording for social media entertainment was transforming into evidence of her family's spectacular miscalculation. Her Instagram followers' comments had shifted dramatically in tone. Wait, is this the Jamal Washington? His company is building half the city, OMG. Rich people just destroyed themselves on live video. This is about to get expensive for the Blackwoods. Someone's about to lose a lot of money. I cannot believe they just did this to his mom. This is karma in real time, and I am here for it. Madison's TikTok viewer count exploded past 200K and climbed toward 300K. Her moment of viral fame was morphing into her family's public relations nightmare. The hashtags she'd used, @CharityDrama and #EliteProblems, were being flooded with comments that painted her family as the villains of their own story. Comments poured in faster than she could read them. Plot twist of the century right here. Rich family just learned what consequences mean. This woman is about to teach them a lesson they'll never forget. When you mess with the wrong person's mom, justice is about to be served. Event coordinator Angela Price felt her tablet buzzing with urgent messages. Hospital administration was demanding immediate updates. Local news outlets were requesting statements. Business journalists were asking for comments about potential contract implications. The story was spreading beyond the ballroom walls at viral speed, jumping from social media to legitimate news coverage within minutes. Security Supervisor Robert Kim received new instructions through his earpiece. Stand down. Repeat. Stand down. VIP protection protocols now in effect for Dorothy Washington. The hotel's management had done their own quick research. Washington Enterprises wasn't just any construction company. They were the largest minority-owned contractor in the state, with political connections reaching to the governor's office and federal transportation department. Their annual revenue exceeded $2 billion. Their client list included Fortune 500 companies, government agencies, and major universities. Dr. Santos moved closer to Dorothy, her expression shifting from professional concern to genuine respect mixed with barely concealed panic. Mrs. Washington, I had no idea you were joining us this evening. Your family's contribution to our expansion project has been extraordinary. The hospital CEO's mind raced through the potential implications. If Washington Enterprises withdrew from the project, the entire timeline would collapse. Construction delay would cascade into patient care disruptions. Federal funding tied to completion deadlines could be jeopardized. Her career could be destroyed by association with this incident. Preston Blackwood felt the ground shifting beneath his feet. His ethics training crystallized into stark clarity. His family had just publicly humiliated the mother of one of the city's most powerful African-American business leaders. The social justice workshops at Columbia had prepared him for theoretical scenarios involving unconscious bias and systemic discrimination. This was devastatingly real, and he was complicit through his silence. From Dorothy's phone, Jamal's voice carried clearly. Mom, should I reschedule tomorrow's contract review meeting? We were planning to finalize the remaining construction phases and discuss the timeline for the pediatric oncology wing. The contract review meeting, tomorrow, for the remaining phases of the $900 million project. The pediatric oncology wing, the hospital's most critical expansion, funded by a combination of federal grants, private donations, and corporate partnerships. Harrison's face had progressed from pale to ashen. His business empire, built on precise calculations and strategic relationships, was crumbling in real time. Blackwood Tech's involvement in the hospital project represented not just current revenue, but future credibility. Other contracts depended on this high-profile success. Universities, government agencies, and corporate clients all watched how companies handled major public projects. Perhaps that would be wise, sweetheart, Dorothy replied. I think the Blackwood family needs time to reconsider their approach to community partnerships and their understanding of diversity in business relationships. The threat was delivered with surgical precision. No raised voices, no dramatic gestures. Just the quiet application of economic leverage that could reshape corporate fortunes with a single phone call. This was power at its most refined, the ability to destroy enemies without appearing aggressive. Catherine finally lowered her phone, the magnitude of their situation penetrating her social media haze. "Harrison," she whispered urgently, "do something. Fix this. Now." But Harrison stood frozen, his mind racing through scenarios. Public apology, emergency damage control, crisis management consultants, board meetings, stock price implications. The cascade of consequences stretched beyond immediate embarrassment into existential corporate crisis. Blackwood Tech's reputation would be permanently linked to this moment of documented discrimination. Society reporter Michelle Torres typed furiously on her phone, crafting breaking news alerts for Metropolitan Life magazine's website and social media channels. This wasn't just social drama, this was a business story with political implications. The intersection of race, power, and corporate accountability playing out in real time at the city's most exclusive charity event. The other guests began processing their own implications. Every phone in the room had captured footage. Every social media account had documented the confrontation. They were all witnesses to a moment that would be studied in business schools and diversity training programs for years to come. Dorothy's expression remained serene throughout the chaos she'd unleashed with a simple phone call, like a conductor who had raised her baton and watched the orchestra respond with perfect precision. 50 years of navigating hostile corporate environments had taught her exactly how to wield power when necessary. "Jamal, I should let you return to your meeting," she said. "We can discuss the evening's educational opportunities when you arrive." The line went dead. Dorothy tucked her phone back into her beaded clutch with the same calm efficiency she'd displayed throughout the confrontation. 200 of the city's elite stood in stunned silence, their assumptions shattered, their smartphones full of evidence, their understanding of power dynamics fundamentally altered. The evening that had promised routine charity glamour had become a masterclass in consequence and accountability. The auction countdown clock showed 90 seconds remaining. But everyone understood that the real auction, the bidding war for dignity, respect, and corporate survival, was just beginning. Harrison Blackwood, billionaire tech mogul, faced a choice that would define his family's legacy: humble himself publicly before 200 witnesses and millions of social media viewers, or watch his business empire crumble under the weight of documented discrimination against the wrong person's mother. The ball was in his court, but Dorothy Washington had just revealed she owned the entire stadium, the league, and could rewrite the rules of the game with a single conversation. 8:58 p.m. Live auction begins in 2 minutes. The silence stretched like a taut wire ready to snap. Harrison's mouth moved soundlessly as his brain calculated the financial devastation unfolding before him. 23% of Blackwood Tech's annual revenue, $47 million in immediate contracts, hundreds of millions in future opportunities. Dorothy adjusted her pearl necklace with deliberate calm, each movement designed to emphasize her composure against the chaos surrounding her. "Mr. Blackwood, shall we discuss the specifics of our business relationship?" Her voice carried the authority of someone who had navigated Fortune 500 boardrooms for decades. The gentle Southern accent that Harrison had dismissed as unsophisticated now revealed itself as the refined diction of old money and established power. Washington Enterprises currently holds the primary construction contract for the new Metropolitan Children's Hospital medical complex, Dorothy continued, her tone remaining conversational despite the nuclear implications. $900 million in total project value. Dr. Santos nodded confirmation, her medical training unable to provide guidance for this unprecedented situation. "The largest infrastructure investment in our hospital's history," she added quietly, sweat beading on her forehead despite the perfect climate control. "Construction employment for approximately 2,000 workers over a 5-year timeline," Dorothy continued, each fact delivered with precision. "Groundbreaking scheduled for next month. Federal funding tied to specific completion deadlines under the Healthcare Infrastructure Modernization Act, Harrison's financial mind processed the cascade of dependencies. Federal grants totaling $340 million. State tax incentives worth $85 million. Municipal permits requiring community approval. Union contracts covering specialized trades. Media attention from political officials. Congressional oversight committees monitoring minority contractor participation. The project existed within a web of relationships that extended far beyond simple business transactions. Catherine stepped closer to her husband, her social media bravado evaporating as corporate reality set in. "Harrison, what is she talking about? What does this mean for us?" "It means," Preston said quietly, his Columbia business courses finally providing useful context, "that our company's smart building systems contract depends entirely on Washington Enterprises continuing the project." Madison's TikTok viewer count had exploded past 400K and was climbing toward 500K. Comments flooded her screen faster than she could process them. The hashtags #CharityGateDrama and #WashingtonRevenge were trending nationally, spreading beyond social media into mainstream news coverage. Her moment of viral fame had morphed into documentation of her family's economic suicide. "Mom," Madison whispered urgently, "people are saying Dad's company stock is going to crash tomorrow." Dorothy heard the exchange and smiled with maternal warmth that somehow made her next words more devastating. "Your smart building integration represents Section 12.7 of our subcontractor agreements, Mr. Blackwood. The clause specifically addresses corporate social responsibility and community partnership standards." Harrison's face drained of remaining color. He knew that clause intimately. His legal team had negotiated extensively around it during the contract review process 6 months ago. The diversity and inclusion requirements, the community engagement standards, the zero-tolerance policy for discrimination in any form by primary contractors or their subcontractor partners. Section 12.7 subsection C, Dorothy continued, pulling the contract language from memory with surgical precision, states that any subcontractor found in violation of ethical partnership standards faces immediate contract review and potential termination without penalty to the primary contractor. Angela Price's tablet buzzed with urgent notifications that made her hands shake. Local news stations were requesting interviews about the incident. Business journalists from the Wall Street Journal and Forbes wanted statements about potential contract implications. The hospital's public relations team was demanding immediate crisis management protocols. Her 20 years of event coordination experience had never prepared her for corporate warfare at a charity gala. Event coordination expertise meant nothing when situations exceeded party planning and entered the realm of federal contract law and civil rights violations. "Mrs. Washington," Dr. Santos interjected carefully, "perhaps we could discuss this privately. I'm sure there's been a misunderstanding that we can resolve professionally through appropriate channels." But Dorothy's attention remained focused on Harrison, like a surgeon maintaining concentration during a critical operation where one mistake could prove fatal. "I appreciate your concern, Dr. Santos. However, this appears to be a teachable moment about corporate values and community responsibility that requires public acknowledgement." Society photographer James Brooks documented every expression, every gesture, every moment of the corporate drama unfolding through his professional lens. His camera captured Harrison's dawning horror, Catherine's growing panic, Preston's uncomfortable awakening, and Dorothy's unshakable composure. These images would appear in business magazines for years as a case study in crisis management failure and the intersection of social justice with economic consequences. The timeline for contract review under Section 12.7, Dorothy continued with the relentless precision of a legal briefing, allows for immediate suspension pending investigation. Federal oversight requires documentation of all incidents involving potential discrimination by primary contractors or their subcontractor partners. Federal oversight. The words hit Harrison like physical blows to his solar plexus. Government contracts required strict compliance with anti-discrimination policies mandated by multiple federal agencies. Violations could trigger investigations by the Department of Labor, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and Small Business Administration that would destroy Blackwood Tech's eligibility for public sector work nationwide. Furthermore, Dorothy added, her voice maintaining its conversational tone while delivering corporate devastation, the Small Business Administration requires annual diversity compliance reporting for all federal contract participants. Tonight's incident would necessitate disclosure in our next quarterly filing. SBA reporting, public disclosure, congressional oversight. The regulatory machinery that Harrison had always viewed as bureaucratic inconvenience was transforming into an existential threat to his business empire. Mrs. Washington. Harrison finally found his voice, though it emerged strained and desperate. Surely we can discuss this reasonably. There's been a misunderstanding about tonight's events. Has there? Dorothy's eyebrows rose slightly, her expression conveying polite curiosity that somehow felt more threatening than anger. You publicly questioned my right to attend a charity event. You suggested I had followed catering trucks to gain entry. You called security to have me removed from a gathering where my family's foundation has donated consistently for 15 years. The facts hung in the air like indictments read before a jury. 200 witnesses were present in the ballroom. Multiple video recordings from different angles. Social media documentation spreading virally across platforms and news outlets. The evidence was overwhelming, indisputable, and permanently archived in digital format. Preston stepped forward, his college ethics training finally overriding family loyalty and social pressure. Mrs. Washington, I want to apologize for my family's behavior. What happened tonight was wrong, and I should have spoken up immediately. Dorothy regarded him with something approaching approval, the first warmth she'd shown toward any Blackwood family member. Thank you, Preston. Accountability is the foundation of integrity, and courage often requires standing against those closest to us. Catherine's phone buzzed constantly with messages from their social circle. Country club friends were asking for explanations about the viral videos. Business associates were requesting clarification about the corporate implications. Board members from Harrison's company were demanding emergency meetings. The social machinery that had elevated the Blackwood family was beginning to turn against them with the same ruthless efficiency it had once supported their rise. Mrs. Washington, Catherine said, her voice cracking slightly with the weight of realization. What can we do to make this right? How do we fix this? An excellent question, Dorothy replied, her tone suggesting genuine appreciation for the shift from defiance to accountability. Let me consult with my son about appropriate next steps for remediation. She retrieved her phone and dialed again, putting the call on speaker for everyone to hear. The gesture was deliberate, transparency as a weapon more powerful than secrecy, openness as a tool of accountability that couldn't be disputed or mischaracterized later. Hello, Mom. Jamal's voice filled the ballroom through the phone's speaker, his professional tone carrying clear across the marble floors and crystal chandeliers. How did the conversation go? Educational, Dorothy replied with understated precision. The Blackwood family is interested in discussing remedial measures for tonight's unfortunate misunderstanding. I see. Jamal's tone remained professionally neutral, but the underlying steel was unmistakable to anyone experienced in high-stakes business negotiations. What specifically are they proposing to address the violation of our partnership standards? Harrison realized this was his moment. Public humiliation or corporate destruction. The choice was binary and immediate, with no middle ground available. Mr. Washington, Harrison said, addressing the phone directly while 200 witnesses watched his capitulation. I want to apologize personally for tonight's incident. My family's behavior was inappropriate and inexcusable. I appreciate the apology, Mr. Blackwood, Jamal replied with professional courtesy that somehow felt more devastating than anger. However, our corporate partnership requires more substantial commitment to the values your family violated tonight. The negotiation had begun, not between equals, but between a desperate supplicant and a power holder who controlled his economic survival and corporate future. 8:59 p.m. Live auction begins in 1 minute. The countdown pressure intensified everyone's awareness that this moment would define multiple futures. Corporate reputations, family legacies, financial security, social standing. Everything balanced on the next 60 seconds of conversation that would determine whether the Blackwood Empire survived or crumbled under the weight of documented discrimination. Dorothy watched Harrison's face with the calm attention of someone who had already calculated every possible outcome and contingency. Like a chess grandmaster who had seen checkmate 15 moves before her opponent recognized the trap closing around him. The real auction was about to begin. Not for charity items, but for dignity, justice, and the true cost of accountability in a world where consequences had finally caught up with privilege. 9:00 p.m. Live auction begins. Dr. Santos stepped to the microphone as the ballroom's attention split between the stage and the corporate drama still unfolding. Her voice carried across the sound system, but every guest remained focused on the Blackwood family's public reckoning. "Ladies and gentlemen," Dr. Santos announced, "before we begin tonight's auction, I'd like to address the evening's educational moment." Harrison's hands trembled as he faced the 200 witnesses who would determine his family's social and economic future. The weight of documented discrimination against the mother of the city's most powerful minority business leader pressed down like a physical force. "I need to make a public statement," Harrison said, his voice carrying clearly through the ballroom's acoustics. "My family's behavior tonight was inexcusable. We discriminated against Mrs. Dorothy Washington based on assumptions and prejudices that have no place in civilized society." The apology hung in the air, but Dorothy's expression suggested it was merely the beginning of accountability, not the end. "Furthermore," Harrison continued, sweat beading on his forehead, "Blackwood Tech commits to implementing comprehensive diversity and inclusion training for all employees within 30 days. Jamal's voice responded through Dorothy's phone speaker. "Training is a start, Mr. Blackwood. However, systemic change requires structural commitment. What governance measures will ensure long-term accountability?" Harrison looked to his corporate attorney, who had materialized during the crisis. Emergency legal consultation via whispered conversation while 200 people watched. "We'll establish an independent diversity oversight board," Harrison announced. "External auditors will conduct quarterly reviews of our hiring, promotion, and contractor selection processes." Catherine stepped forward, her social media confidence replaced by genuine remorse. "I want to personally apologize to Mrs. Washington. We'll be donating $1 million to the hospital's Diversity Scholarship Fund." Madison deleted her TikTok video and posted a new statement. "My family was wrong tonight. I'm sorry for filming someone's humiliation, taking a social media break to learn about privilege." Preston addressed Dorothy directly. "Mrs. Washington, I'll be transferring to Howard University's business program next semester to understand perspectives I've been sheltered from." The rapid-fire commitments represented millions in financial obligations and fundamental changes to corporate structure. But Dorothy's calm expression suggested the price of redemption was still being calculated. "These are meaningful first steps," Jamal's voice acknowledged. "However, our partnership agreement requires specific performance metrics. How will Blackwood Tech demonstrate measurable progress?" Harrison's attorney whispered urgently before he responded. "We'll achieve 30% minority contractor participation within 12 months. Executive compensation will be tied to diversity metrics. Annual public reporting of our progress." Dr. Santos seized the moment. "The hospital will require all future contractors to sign enhanced anti-discrimination clauses with immediate termination provisions." Angela Price announced, "Tonight's auction proceeds will be matched by emergency donations totaling $5 million for hospital diversity initiatives." The financial commitments cascaded through the ballroom as other guests felt pressure to demonstrate their own commitment. The social machinery that had enabled discrimination was being repurposed for accountability. Dorothy finally spoke directly to Harrison. Your commitments represent significant progress, Mr. Blackwood. However, accountability requires sustained action, not just crisis management. We understand, Mrs. Washington, Harrison replied, his tone reflecting genuine recognition. This evening has revealed character flaws we need to address permanently. Jamal's voice returned. The Washington Family Foundation will monitor Blackwood Tech's progress through quarterly meetings. Contract continuation depends on measurable outcomes. The terms were clear. Permanent oversight, measurable progress, public accountability. The Blackwood family's survival depended on transforming their values, not just their public statements. The auction proceeded, but the evening's real business had been concluded. Dorothy Washington had transformed personal humiliation into systematic change affecting corporate governance and social accountability. Preston approached Dorothy. Mrs. Washington, would you be willing to mentor me as I learn to be a better ally? I'd be honored, Preston, Dorothy replied with genuine warmth. Transformation begins with admitting mistakes and committing to growth. The evening concluded with Dorothy being recognized as the hospital's Champion of Dignity, an award created spontaneously to honor her grace under pressure. 6 months later, the new Metropolitan Children's Hospital Medical Complex rose against the skyline, its smart building systems gleaming in the morning sun. Dorothy Washington stood in her corner office at Washington Enterprises, reviewing quarterly diversity reports that had become the industry standard. Blackwood Tech's transformation had exceeded every expectation. Harrison personally led monthly unconscious bias workshops. Catherine had enrolled in African American studies courses and volunteered at community centers. Madison's social media presence now focused on social justice education, reaching 2.3 million followers with authentic content about privilege and accountability. Preston graduated from Howard University with honors, his senior thesis on corporate social responsibility becoming required reading in business ethics programs nationwide. He now worked as diversity coordinator for a Fortune 500 company, implementing the Washington Protocol that had spread across corporate America. The hospital's pediatric wing opened ahead of schedule, employing local minority contractors and featuring artwork from African American artists. Federal officials praised the project as a model for inclusive development, securing additional funding for similar initiatives across the country. Dorothy's phone buzzed with a text from Jamal. Mom, the White House wants to discuss our infrastructure model for the National Healthcare Initiative. Your dignity changed more than one family that night. The viral video from the charity gala had been viewed over 50 million times, becoming a case study in business schools and diversity training programs. Comment sections filled with stories from viewers who had experienced similar discrimination and found courage in Dorothy's quiet strength. Real-life stories like these touched millions who had felt invisible in corporate spaces, hospital waiting rooms, and charity events. Black stories of resilience gained new platforms as companies scrambled to understand the true cost of discrimination. Life stories that had been dismissed or ignored found audiences hungry for authentic narratives about justice and accountability. The Dorothy Washington Standard influenced hiring practices, board compositions, and partnership agreements across industries. Her approach, strategic, measured, educational rather than destructive, had proven that sustainable change required changing hearts and systems, not just punishing individuals. Dorothy walked to her window overlooking the construction site where 2,000 workers built the future of pediatric medicine. The same ballroom where she had been humiliated now hosted quarterly diversity summits attended by CEOs from across the nation. Her assistant knocked softly. Mrs. Washington, the documentary crew is here for your interview about systemic change in corporate America. Dorothy smiled, adjusting the same pearl necklace she had worn that transformative evening. The jewelry had become a symbol of dignity under pressure, referenced in articles and speeches about grace in the face of adversity. Send them in, she said. It's time to share more touching stories about how individual courage can create institutional change. The interviewer's first question was predictable. Mrs. Washington, what advice would you give to others facing discrimination in professional or social settings? Never let someone else's ignorance diminish your dignity, Dorothy replied. Know your worth, understand your power, and use both strategically. Change happens when consequences teach lessons that lectures cannot. Her words would be quoted in graduation speeches, diversity training modules, and corporate mission statements. The quiet power she had demonstrated that night continued rippling through society, creating waves of accountability that reached far beyond one family's awakening. The documentary would premiere at film festivals before streaming globally, carrying Dorothy's message to audiences who needed to hear that justice could triumph through strategic application of moral authority and economic leverage. As cameras rolled, Dorothy thought about the thousands of messages she had received from people who found courage in her example. Parents teaching children about dignity, employees standing up to workplace discrimination, communities demanding accountability from institutions that had previously ignored their concerns. The evening that began with humiliation had become a movement, not through violence or revenge, but through the revolutionary act of refusing to accept disrespect while maintaining the moral high ground. Have you witnessed workplace discrimination or social injustice? Share your story in the comments below. Your voice matters, and your experience can inspire others to stand with dignity against prejudice. The most powerful weapon against discrimination is sunshine. The light of accountability, the warmth of community support, and the clarity of consequences for those who choose ignorance over understanding. Subscribe to Black Soul Stories for more inspiring narratives of quiet strength triumphing over systemic bias. Ring that notification bell because dignity should never be optional and justice should never be silent. Together, we can ensure that Dorothy Washington's legacy lives on in every boardroom, every charity gala, and every moment when someone chooses courage over comfort.